You know, you all were here for the last hearing and what happened, and you know, I think as time went on and there was some reflection on all parties' parts, and they reached out and wanted to sit down and have a conversation, which, you know, that's not an uncommon thing at the Nevada Athletic Commission. I think you don't really hear about a lot of that, but we have a lot of discussions with fighters that are not in this room on all kinds of issues. So he requested that. We, of course, our door is open to any fighter who wants to meet with us about anything. That's our job. So he made the trip to come over here, and we sat down. We had a very productive meeting. I think that there were some things that I, as the Nevada State Athletic Commission chairman, looked at that I thought we should have done different. I thought we could have done better. And he pointed out some things, I think, on his part that he felt he could do better. And I think that a rehearing was the exact correct action here, based on how the last meeting, the last decision was made, and so that's how we got to this point. I don't have the authority to grant the rehearing. I only have the authority to put it on the agenda, and I think today was pretty obvious that I think a lot of the commissioners felt the same way, that the last hearing was not where I thought we should be or where they thought we should be. So you saw what happened here today, and that's really how we got here.
You weren't on the phone with him last night. You just heard about what that conversation went like, correct?
Last night, what about last night?
There was a convetion that was talked about how he was very apologetic on the phone. You weren't on the line for that conversation, correct?
The last meeting, I think he's talking about.
I have no idea.
I think he means at the original hearing.
Oh, that's the original hearing 4 months ago, not last night. There were no conversations last night that I'm aware of.
Okay, so he was on the phone today. Is there a reason he didn't speak, or
I think if we have a settlement agreement, if you've noticed the direction of the commission in the last 6 months has been, if we have a settlement agreement between both parties where both attorneys are representing that their clients, the Nevada State Athletic Commission and Fighter A, are in agreement with that, then there's no reason to have a big public display of affection and give you all a great report to go right. So that's the kind of the direction of my chairmanship, is to calm things down. We don't need 3-hour meetings. These are not trials. Nobody killed anybody, and there's no reason to go through these big, huge beratements of fighters for any reason. If the two parties agree, if it's within the regs, if it fits 467 in the guidelines, and I'm going to move very quickly to have an adjudication agreement approved without taking a fighter or the athletic commission through any more wasted time or money. So Conor didn't get treated any different today than if you watch the last 4 or 5 adjudication agreements that came before. They've been handled exactly the same.
At the previous hearing, you seemed to disagree with the hefty $150,000 fine. Did you have any problem with other commissioners of getting them to come over to your side on that?
No, I didn't. I mean, I think that today, you know, I'm equally responsible. I voted for that final motion back in October. So, but you know, I think, like I said, in time, you know, I can honestly tell you, I've walked out of this commission room during my tenure many times that said that was exactly the right medicine. We did exactly what we should have done. And there's a few times where I walked out and said, I think we went a little too far, even though I was a participant in it. And I think that some self-reflection at times is not bad. So this all kind of came together 3 or 4 months later after there was some time to think about it. And I did disagree with the $150,000. I thought it was too heavy, even though I voted for it, as it got kind of bifurcated, because it wasn't really $150,000. It was $75,000 of cash, and it was $75,000 of some way of accounting for a public service announcement, which nobody was really clear on how to do, and that was the gray area for me. So that's why I think it was, on top of that, it was better to bring it back into the room.
How much of a learning experience is that going forward for you guys to have some clarity on things like that? I think everybody left last time saying $75,000 in production costs or distribution costs or whatever that is. What does that even mean? So how important is it for you guys to have clarity on punishments going forward on that? You
know, sometimes motions take a life of their own in these rooms, and it's in the moment, and you know, you are not necessarily thinking about all of the aftermath and the repercussions that happen from a motion. That's why I said some time to reflect sometimes is not a bad thing. This commission's come back a couple times after reflecting and said, you know what, this is probably too far. We weren't thinking about this, and I don't think it's a bad thing for us to be able to admit when we've gone too far. But we're human too. I think that this was the right outcome, and I think everybody agrees with that.
The cash portion went from $75,000 to $25,000. Why was that reduced?
Well, that was the original recommendation of the Attorney General, and if you go out and look in all of sports for things that get thrown, the fines are not very high for whatever reason. And I think that we didn't have any precedent to go on here. We had nowhere to go with this. We had no, usually when somebody comes before us with a doping violation, we have a lot of precedent for that. We know exactly where to go. Our regs are very clear, both in time and money, for specific substances, for if it's an initial instance or if it's repeat. The regs really are kind of drive the motion. Throwing a monster can in a water bottle at a press conference, that's a first. So, you know, we started sitting back and saying, okay, is $75,000 appropriate for throwing a water bottle? You know, and I think that's where a lot of the thoughts came from. And maybe that even that is too far. 150 I thought was definitely too far, and I think the 75 was too far. So I think 25 is a fair number for what was done. I mean, somebody could have gotten really hurt outside of the fighters. So, you know, I think you got to take that into consideration too. I still can't tell you if there's no science to this. You know, it's an art. So there's no, yeah, 25,000 for throwing a water bottle. I don't know.
10,000 for a Coke can,
Yeah,
25
exactly.
for water.
Moving forward, this might be a better question for Executive Director Bennett, but I mean, now that you guys have this settled, the next order, I guess, that he's trying to get is the boxing license. Has there been any type of discussion of this?
Well, he now has an agreement that he has agreed to. He has a settlement agreement he's agreed to, so he needs to drop his legal action that he was talking about taking. He needs to pay his fine and pay the attorney, and then he would be eligible for a boxing license. You know, that could happen today, and it could happen whenever it happens. So, but from this point forward, I just signed that before I came and talked to all of you. So as long as he does what he's agreed to, he's probably going to get a boxing license.
So to get a license, can you still also complete the community service or just pay?
We would still issue him, I believe, the license as long as the fine is paid. I have a lot of faith that he'll do the community service and he'll do it well based on my discussion with him. So that's something that we will manage between the fighter and the athletic commission. But as far as the state statute's concerned, I have to have a fine paid.
When you sat down with Conor, did you discuss in particular the boxing license?
No, we really stayed focused on his last adjudication and the dollar amounts and how he felt about it, and you know and he was very professional. It was a great meeting with him. I mean, he was a lot of times these fighters are completely different people than you see in the public. Most of the time they are. So it's good to not have these conversations sometimes in public and really get down to what the fighter's thinking, where they're at, what they want to do. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret that's out there. Everybody's talking about him boxing, but we didn't get into that very much.
Because he also mentioned he didn't want to fight in Las Vegas again after the last hearing.
You know, he can fight wherever he wants and wherever his promoter wants to fight him. So our door's always open. We'd love to have him in Nevada, but if he chooses to fight elsewhere, those are his decisions.
Is there anything you could say to the casual UFC fan watching at home who speculates that this reduction of the fine is related to that comment? The fact that he may never fight in Las Vegas again? I mean, what do you say to the people who think, oh, they're just lowering the fine because they want him to fight here?
You know, I think everybody out there is going to think what they want, you know. I can tell you this, as the athletic chairman and a commissioner, I've never read your press because I don't really care. I try to do what's right, and I've had a lot of discussions, and I put my head on the pillow at night knowing I'm trying to do what's right.
But how much stock do you put into something like that, knowing that he is someone different in front of a camera than he is, say, meeting with you?
Well, time will tell. You know, we still have the authority and the power over his license and the ability to fight in the state of Nevada. You know, and I do agree with Dana that Conor can fight anywhere he wants in the world, but at the end of the day, this is Nevada and this is Las Vegas, and every fighter needs to fight in Las Vegas. There's not many fighters that have made a huge career and not come through this town. So, like I said, he can fight wherever he wants, wherever he feels is appropriate to fight for his career and for his promoter and for his purse and for his wallet and his well-being. But I believe in time, all fighters will find their way to Las Vegas. So, and I think he wants to fight in Las Vegas. You know, my conversations with him, I think he was upset. I think he was emotional. I think he said some things that maybe he didn't either want to say or regretted saying. You know, you can ask him that. But he's got a multi-million-dollar home here. He's here a lot. I think he's made a lot of investment here. And his promotion that he's currently under contract in has made a huge investment to fight here at T-Mobile. So, again, he could go fight in New York. That's very possible. But we'll just see. Let time tell. But I really don't think a $50,000 reduction in his fine is going to make a decision on him doing a $400 or $500 million mega fight in boxing and where it's going to happen. That wouldn't be a really smart business decision. He'll probably fight wherever they can make the most amount of money. That's usually what this comes down to.
I know Cormier and Jones did their community service back home. Does Conor have to be here? Can it be wherever?
No, he can do it in Dublin, and I think that was pretty clear to me today. The executive director does an excellent job of monitoring these fighters and what they do, and making sure that it happens, whether it's documentation, affidavits, sometimes videos, so we know what they're doing. And I think he'll be all over that, and I think Conor knows we'll hold him to that.
And once a boxer is licensed, are they licensed to box anybody professionally, or would it have to be specifically sanctioned to be McGregor Mayweather?
The bout will still have to be approved. Just have the boxing license is one thing, but there still would need to be an approval of a date. They would need to go through all of the same processes that any other event does to have the card approved and have the bouts approved. And I can't tell you that we would approve that fight or not. I think that I would lean to the fact that we most likely would, but we would probably want to go watch McGregor in a little bit of a boxing environment. But it's kind of hard to argue. You got you have the best boxer probably of all time against one of the best strikers in the UFC. And if that does happen, we're just speculating now, but I think it'd be hard to not approve that fight. So,
how soon do you look to go back and look at the Nate Diaz situation, and what can this mean for him possibly?
We're going to reach out to Nate and let him know that what's fair is fair, and he has an opportunity to come back before us if he'd like to. And we'll make that as painless and as cheap as possible to get, I think that what you heard Attorney General Bateman talk about today was not a percentage of the purse, but a fine that's equivalent and equal for the action taken. So if we were to do that, then you could speculate right now that the commission would probably have some sort of reduction, some sort of refund coming back to Nate.
Okay, that was a question.
Yeah,
I thought you said he paid already.
Yeah, he did. He didn't have any, his was done and done. It was heard, done, finished, check got sent in, and over. So we do have a refund process if we did rehear it. I just want to make sure. My number one goal is fairness, and I don't want to. Sometimes we've gotten out, and I think to the earlier question, the public might see us getting really lopsided on some of these things, and I'm really trying to bring that in and keep it on the rail and make sure that it's fair for all the fighters. And if we do something for one, like we did today, we need to be fair to the other.